Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it. It's AFR LSU, your home for daily content on your favorite team, Fighting Tigers of LSU. And we're proud to be presented by BetUS, where this football season, get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use the promo code YouTube150. Now, enjoy the video. Let's head up to Columbia, South Carolina. David Cloninger from the Post and Courier, good enough to join us, longtime friend of the show. How are you, man?
Not bad, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. This is the first time since 2008 LSU has made their way up to Columbia. Of course, they were supposed to be there in 2015, but the flooding up there moved that game to Baton Rouge. Does the vibe feel good? Any different with LSU making a rare trip?
I mean, obviously, LSU anytime is always going to bring its own vibe. I can tell you that the bars and taverns around town have been preparing for the influx of the Tiger faithful. But I think it's a huge vibe right now, Matt, just because South Carolina won its game last week convincingly. They're on top of the SEC at present, and game day is in town. So it's going to be a huge atmosphere, even for a noon kickoff. I anticipate it being pretty full to bursting by the time the ball is actually put into play.
How different is that vibe from week 1 to week 2, David, where they struggled so much against Old Dominion, and now, I mean, now game day's there, and man, vibes are good.
Well, you know, even in a place where it does truly fluctuate week to week about like, oh my God, this is never going to be any good, to, man, you know what, they might have a shot at it this year. It's pretty off the charts right now, Matt, just because they did win last week so convincingly after looking so poor in week 1. So a lot of people are looking at this one, and they're going into the very familiar South Carolina phrase of, what if? I mean, you know, if you win this game and you got Akron next week and then a bye week, it's like, hey, why can't game day be back in here in 2 weeks for the Ole Miss game? I mean, why not? You know, it could happen. It could happen. But, yeah, it could. We'll see what does happen. But right now, everything's looking pretty good.
Dave, I'm not saying that you do feel this way, but I'm going to ask you to give me an explanation of why this could be the case. So I've watched both South Carolina games. I was sitting at a sports bar at the Park MGM in Vegas watching that Old Dominion game, and I was watching the game against Kentucky last week from home. And South Carolina's offense is bad. They're not impressive in any way. Why am I wrong?
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, it definitely improved from week 1 to week 2, but it's still not what you would call fluid. The fact is the offensive line, which was full of talent and, you know, is healthy this year after an injury-marred 2023, they're just not blocking that well, which means Rocket Sanders can't get a lot of burst and room to run like he did 2 years ago at Arkansas, which means the growing pains from a true freshman or a redshirt freshman quarterback are going to be exacerbated, because it's like, look, anybody's going to look bad if you're getting smacked around 2 seconds after the snap. You throw in that they don't really have any proven wide receivers, and yeah, you're going to have a rough-looking offense. So it was a case of field position. Last week, they managed to punch in some touchdowns when they needed it, but there still hasn't been anything of what you call sustained offense.
We'll get right back to the video, but thrilled to tell you about our partners at BetUS. If you sports bet, you got to use BetUS. If you don't sports bet, you need to start, and you got to use BetUS, because right now, BetUS is giving you a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Let me show you how easy this is. You go to BetUS. Let's say you want to bet on the Tigers and the Gamecocks. You hit the football drop down. There's the college football tab. So easy. Here's all the list of games. Of course, Tigers and Gamecocks play early. So we're going to find LSU and South Carolina. There it is. LSU currently a 6.5-point favorite. Y'all, I love LSU to win and cover. I think South Carolina's offense is brutal. I don't know how they score. There might be the threat of rain. I'm laying the 6.5. This was 8.5 at one point. The line keeps coming down. You might be able to wait and get even more value. So let's bet $25 on that. You hit your wager. You hit place bet. It's going to ask me to confirm the wager. There it is right there. We're going to confirm that wager. and now it's going to give me my confirmation ticket right there. We are locked in just like that. $25 at -115 for a payout of $21.75. It's that easy over at BetUS. You can do it as well. So go to BetUS. Remember, a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. But you got to use the promo code YouTube150. It's right here on the screen below us. Now, enjoy the rest of the video. What does a ideal offense around LaNorris Sellers look like?
Run the ball, heavy and fast with a lot of success. You have a lot of quick outs to the sideline to let him settle in and get comfortable. And some people would call that setting up for the deep pass. I think it's just keep doing what you got. And if somebody like Kentucky does last week and just completely forget to cover a receiver downfield, well, go ahead and hit him while he's open.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is. I mean, obviously Kentucky just had a couple of glaring busts there, one that led to a touchdown, another which became a touchdown 2 plays after that. But one of them was, okay, they screwed up. The other one was, hey, if you rush that many that often, somebody got to be open, and you didn't get to the quarterback that time.
Yeah. I don't know, David. I mean, I've looked at the offensive side of this game for South Carolina against the LSU defense. I don't know that I see many explosive plays for South Carolina. If they do come, I don't see Deebo Samuel out there. You know what I mean? I don't see Xavier Legette out there. Who is a guy maybe that LSU fans should know when they're watching the game Saturday morning?
Well, right now, South Carolina, just through 2 weeks, has started to identify a couple of receivers. One is Jared Brown, number 14.
Okay.
He was a guy that dropped a wide-open touchdown pass in week 1, but he caught a couple of tough plays in traffic in the middle of the field last week. And then Mazio Bennett, number 3. Again, he caught a touchdown last week where Kentucky just had a glaring coverage bust. But then he caught a huge third down completion that led to another touchdown, which was just he ran his route, and Kentucky didn't have enough players to cover him. He's going to be a big-time guy. So when you look at chemistry, you look at guys that you have to go to when you need to make a play. Right now, it's those 2 guys. That being said, there are a couple of other receivers, like maybe they just haven't shown yet. And I think those guys could be the guys this week.
It'll be interesting to see, man. I think, David, honestly, the game, like the good-on-good matchup, and David Cloninger is our guest, Charleston Post and Courier. He's on Twitter at DCP&C, as in Post and Courier, if you want to give him a follow. A great follow if you want South Carolina stuff, especially this week. The good-on-good is obviously the LSU offensive line against that South Carolina defensive front. Both have been awesome. I mean, LSU hasn't allowed a sack. Carolina's got 10 sacks in 2 games. How do you make sense of what we may see with that matchup on Saturday?
It's going to be very interesting, Matt. I mean, obviously, LSU hasn't given up a sack all year, while South Carolina has 10 sacks this year, and that's tied for second in the entire country. So it's real simple. If Garrett Nussmeier has time to sit back there and throw, he's probably going to complete the pass because you can't cover anybody forever. And so South Carolina's going to have to try to get to him. LSU's rushing game has not been that good through the first 2 games, so USC is setting up to face a lot of passing. And I think that's where the game is going to be decided, in the trenches, because something's got to give. Is it going to be the side that hasn't given up a sack to a side that's gotten 10 in 2 games?
Do you think Carolina will have success against that LSU? I don't know how much you've seen LSU's offensive line. Do you think that Carolina will have success?
If it comes, I think it would be late in the game, just because you got to kind of hammer away at it. I mean, these guys have been around for a while. 4 starters returning from last year. Will Campbell hadn't given up a sack since his freshman season, I believe.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to try to do it unless you just try to overload everything and send them every down. Now, the positive there, the South Carolina has the depth to do that. But the thing is that if you do that, you're articulating to the offense like, look, if they're just going to jailbreak every time, we're just going to send an 8-10-yard button hook at you and complete a pass over the middle and let them run. It's just a game of numbers right there. So if there is that pass rushing success from South Carolina, I think it's going to come late in the game. And, if you say it like we're playing devil's advocate, okay, say it's 10-10 in the third there, late in the third, and then, LSU's like one guy falls down and they get a sack on Nussmeier, maybe that becomes the winning score. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll see how it happens.
Hey, David, a couple more for you. This may be the only time all year I do one of these like opposing media interviews, and I ask about the punter. But I mean, we're at media days, and they brought Kai Kroger to media days. I mean, it might be the only time ever I've seen a punter at media days. How big of a deal? If this game is close, and I know that line keeps coming down. I think it was 8.5. It's down to 6.5. How big of a deal can Kai Kroger be in a game?
Well, ask Kentucky, Matt. A lot of their offensive struggles last week was because of USC's pass rush. A lot more of it was because they were starting well inside their own 20 almost all game. And that's just a testament of having a great, terrific punter who's been there before and averaged 51.8 on his 5 punts last week, including a long of 58. So that can flip the field. And I could go back and say, go ask Clemson in 2022 how that works, because they were staring at the short end of the field all day. Yeah. Kai Kroger has definitely come back from the struggles he had last year. He's back on top of him. It's saying, like, listen, if you can't get it done on offense, he's going to at least help out the defense to make LSU drive a long field.
Hey, David, is there something, I keep telling our audience, man, look, you got to stop LaNorris Sellers and Rocket Sanders from running the ball, and you got to keep Nussmeier upright. If you do that, you're probably going to win the game. Is there something that you, in covering this team, that you look at as a blueprint for South Carolina to say, okay, here's the things, the game within the game that Carolina's got to do to win this game at home on Saturday?
Well, certainly, Matt, you couldn't pin it on one area of the offense right now. There just hasn't been anything consistent there. And you can never say, like, well, shoot, if you just get a defensive touchdown, you're fine. You can't count on that, right? I mean, they got one last week, which put the game away. It was 24-6 at the time, and that made it 31-6, but you can't count on that. So I'd say it's just getting to Garrett Nussmeier. Again, I don't think that LSU's been running the ball particularly well in its first 2 games. You would think that they're probably not going to want to try to depend on that, not with that offensive line, and say, look, you've got the horses to let Nussmeier sit back there and throw, and you're always going to win that matchup if he has a clean pocket. So you do that, you can complete a couple of passes, particularly to the side of the field on the safety that's not Nick Inman-Mori, which is DQ Smith, you're probably going to have a pretty successful day. But if USC can find some way to say, disguise the blitz and maybe not just bring as many as they have been and still get the job done, well, then it may be a long day for LSU's offense.
Man, it's always interesting in the first month because you're learning about these teams as we go, and this will be pretty telling as LSU opens up conference play there in Columbia. Tough place to play that the Tigers have seldom visited. Last time they were there, as we mentioned, was 2008. He's David Cloninger, Charleston Post and Courier. He's on Twitter at DCPNC. I'll give him a follow, get some Gamecock news this week as the Tigers head up to Columbia. Hey, David, enjoy the game, man. We appreciate the time as always.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching the video. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, hit the bell so you're notified when we post a new video, and remember to support BetUS, where right now you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150.